Good morning. Did I hear you all say good morning on the other side of the line, on the other side of the wire? Love brings change. It was a week ago today, I was asked via a text by Reverend Margie if I'd like to give the talk today. And I thought to myself, sure. And I immediately texted her back and she said, okay, great. I need the title of your talk and I need a description right away. And then she let me know that by mistake, an email didn't go through a few weeks before, and she was terribly sorry, and I still said yes. And I was in the process of a moment where I had heard this song just before she texted me called Love Brings Change by Jamie Foxx. You see, I was having a relationship with myself and an experience of that song when Margie texted me. And I was beginning to understand, again, my own quote, the journey is my destination. And then I thought to myself, what did I just say? I said yes to Reverend Margie. I'd speak next week. What am I going to talk about? And I quickly text her back, okay, Love Brings Change, after the name of the song by Jamie Foxx. And then I gave her a little blurb, something about a mystic and finding the inner mystic in you. And I was recalling a time when my father once said to me, June, you're a prophet. Your friends are prophets. You're a mystic. Your friends are mystics. Everybody is. It's what calls to you and what calls to them. And to be honest, I'd never really looked at that definition because I always thought of somebody like Jesus or Buddha or Allah or Muhammad or Muji or somebody like that was a prophet, not me. And so for my benefit and yours as well, I've decided to look up the definition. And let me just let you know in advance that both a prophet and a mystic are a noun. That's a person, place, or thing. A prophet is a person regarded as an inspired teacher or a proclaimer of the will of God. For example, in the Old Testament, Jeremiah was a prophet. Some similar words that go with prophet that you may have heard are the word like seer, soothsayer, fortune teller, clairvoyant, diviner, prophetess, or oracle. Now let me share the definition of mystic. A person who seeks by contemplation and self-surrender to obtain unity with or for absorption into divinity, the absolute, one who believes in spiritual apprehension of truths that are beyond the intellect. One of my favorite well-known mystics is Rumi. The poetry that Rumi shares often stirs me, and I think to myself, how did he come up with those? But he really must have looked deep. Well, I had a moment yesterday when I was putting my paperwork together, and you may have seen me challenged for a moment with my stack of books here. I went to my bookshelf and I began to look because all week long I was thinking of this topic about how does love bring change when I'm having a little relationship experience of myself, and after all this time I get to speak at Unity Church of Hawaii. Oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about? And will I serve you best in love? So as I came across all these books, I sat down in my parlor, and all of a sudden, don't ask me why, and never do I ever do this in the middle of the afternoon, but I picked up the remote, I turned on the Roku, and I began watching Charlotte's Web. And I said, all right, God, I really have to focus on this stack of books here. Could you just let me be? And I got this internal message that said, no, you're watching Charlotte's Web. So I watched about a quarter of it, and I took a few notes, and I began to think about how animals actually show us ourselves through storytelling. And then I said, all right, pause, get to work. And I came across a quote by Mother Teresa. And if you don't know this about Mother Teresa, she was Albanian, Indian. She was a Roman Catholic nun. She said, "I know God won't give me anything I can't handle." And then she said, "I just wish he didn't trust me so much." And I thought to myself, okay, that's the way I'm feeling right now. I'm kind of feeling like Mother Teresa, because all of a sudden now time is getting limited and I'm looking at my stack of books and I'm like, focus. Oh no. All of a sudden I have to get back to Charlotte's Web. So I turn Charlotte's Web back on, and what do I hear? I hear salutations. That's what Charlotte, the spider, said to Wilbur the pig on the day he arrived in the barn. You see, Wilbur was a runt in the litter. Fern, the little girl that rescued him, said to her father, "No, you can't do that. I will take care of him." Fern loves him unfailingly. The outcome was very uncertain, because we all know what happens to pigs. Charlotte got clever and she said, "Since you want to be my friend and everybody else seems scared of me, I need to get creative." And the next thing you know, she had put up on her web the words "some pig." Some pig, because she wanted people to notice some pig. Hold that thought. Myrtle and Charles Fillmore were the co-founders of Unity. And Charles Fillmore and Cora Fillmore wrote the book, The 12 Powers. The 12 Powers explains metaphysically the 12 human peers or faculties and the process of regeneration as taught by Jesus Christ. The fifth power of love holds soul and body together. Love is an attractive force that draws us out of our own good into the best, according to the depth and strength of our realization of love. And wouldn't you know, when I picked this book up off the shelf, there was a bookmark in here at chapter 5, Regenerating Love. And come on, the bookmark says Harvest of Love, and they're barn animals. I mean, go figure, right? So that's number one. The 12 powers. But what happens when love doesn't go our way? Because sometimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it doesn't go our way for lots of people. All of a sudden we hear these sappy love songs and our hearts turn inside out, and that's all we hear. Like, we almost attract them on the radio, right? For instance, for those of you who are Etta James' age, there was "I'd Rather Go Blind." Or for me, once upon a time, was Sinead O'Connor's song by Prince, who wrote it, "Nothing Compares to You." And then there's the more recent Adele, "Someone Like You." Ugh. Brings back some memories, doesn't it? Of what love feels like or felt like, based on where you're at on your journey. And how about this one by John Lennon and Paul McCartney? "All You Need Is Love." If you're not familiar with this book, Unity, How to Speak Unity by Reverend Temple Hayes. This is another special little book, and I'm going to read the page on love. So for those of you that are new to Unity or wondering what love is, this is the definition of love. And if you notice at the top of her page, it's "All You Need Is Love" by Lennon and McCartney. Love is the common thread among all living things. The energy of love is the great healer. In Matthew 19:19, it instructs us to love thy neighbor as thyself. Many people are taught and believe it is wrong to love themselves and selfish to have their own best interest in mind. However, we do not love ourselves. If we do not love ourselves, how can we truly care for someone else? Have you ever met people who despised themselves, did not care for themselves, and yet loved everyone else? Probably not. In unity, we do not believe it is possible to think we can love other people unconditionally and want for them unless we are practicing the same action of love within ourselves. We are ourselves in others, not only from our eyes, but from our hearts. When our hearts are filled with love, love is what our eyes will see. How to speak unity. I bring that up because we talk about that a lot. And the next book I come up with is how do we stand in love? To stand in love. This is Untangling the Webs We Weave. I've read this a few times by Dr. Patty Wells. How do we untangle this? We will create what is. Now listen, this is something deep. We will create what is through our communication to that which we choose to speak. We will create what is through our communication to that which we choose to speak. So what are you speaking? What are you speaking? If you want love to bring change, what are you speaking? There may be some of you that do have mates, and you've read this little book, wondering, how am I going to make it through? This is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. You might think to yourself, maybe if he knew or she knew that words of affirmation was my number one love language, they might connect with me better. Well, what if you knew that their number one love language was quality time, and you spent more time? It's the words that you're choosing and the actions that you're living up to it that bring change. If you're curious about the 5 other love languages, let me just share them with you now. Words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Gerald Jampolsky wrote the book Teach Only Love, The 12 Steps of Attitudinal Healing. If you don't have the right attitude, how can you possibly make love visible and let love bring change? None of Gary Chapman's love languages will work if you do not have the right attitude. Our attitude determines whether we experience peace, freedom, fear, or limitation. I'm sure you've probably noticed that during the last several months. Some people are wearing masks, others are not. Everybody has an opinion. Are you scared? Are you living free? Are you in limitation? Are you in lack? Or are you feeling a sense of peace? Love is an attitude of total acceptance, totally given with no boundaries, no exceptions. Just because somebody else doesn't have their mask on or you don't have yours on, do you think you could be about love without judgment? Attitudinal healing occurs when we make the decision to teach only love. Whew, that's a hard pill to swallow because life happens, right? All kinds of things happen. I don't know if any of you have ridden in the car with me, but that's probably where I'm not the most loving. I think it's my secret spot to be a little bit maybe not nice. Sometimes I use inappropriate language when somebody drops in on me, and then I think, but wait, maybe she's going to have a baby, or maybe he got something in his eye, or maybe they're in a rush to go somewhere, and it wasn't their fault, but maybe it's my attitude. So I end up finding myself going, adjust, relax, June, you're going to get where you're going. And then I find myself back in a place of being about real love, where I'm not busy being angry or hurt or disappointed, even when I think people are thoughtless or inconsiderate. In this book by Dr. Greg Bear, Real Love, it says, real love is unconditional. But boy, am I good at making it conditional. I have to take the trash out of my own mind regularly just to get back to where I'm at with me. And what it takes is this. Ultimately, it's that still small voice within each and every one of us. It's like the best therapist ever, if we listen carefully. But in order to hear it, we have to stop running. We have to stop defending. Wait. I have to stop running. I have to stop defending. I have to stop rescuing. I have to be still. And I have to listen to its wisdom. Through the live wire, through the coconut wireless, through the internet web, wherever you are, join me. Are you ready for the first one? I have to stop defending. I have to stop rescuing. I heard it. I have to stop running. I have to be still. And I have to listen to its wisdom. Yes. Thank you for joining me. When we do this, love comes forward. We make discoveries about ourselves. This internal dialogue comes forward, and we experience ourselves in a much deeper sense that nobody can take away from us. Nobody can judge us or assign significance to it. Only we can, and if we're willing to look deep enough, it's actually there. When we do make this discovery, everything thus far anchors us in the lessons of love. Oh gosh, and then I came across another book. And this is a good one for right about now, The Love of Uncertainty by Steve Hamilton. I didn't pull a quote from this book, but I did sift through it. And when I sifted through it, I came across a renewal card for the Daily Word. I went, oh, okay, so I'm getting all the right messages. I really want to go back to Charlotte's Web, but I need to keep going. The Daily Word. And as I began to think about the Daily Word and Charlotte's Web, the next word that Charlotte spins into her web on behalf of the pig was terrific. I have to say, I've never really seen the word terrific in the Daily Word, and that's okay, because the movie went on to tell us about every animal that had something to do with our lives. For instance, Templeton the rat, who was the naysayer. But Wilbur gives them a carrot and says, be strong, this is for strength. And then later on, Charlotte weaves up in her web, radiant. And the people kept coming, and they were seeing this over and over again. And somebody said, look, there's more writing on the web. Could that be like the writing on the wall? The next word was miraculous, and people showed up in droves as they came from all over to see this miraculous pig. All because a beloved little girl and a spider were about love. Then, of course, finally, gosh, I almost don't want to spoil the end, but I'm just going to say this because I'm guessing most of you have seen the film. The last word at the fairgrounds was humble. Humble. Love has that ability to show us humility. The message of Charlotte's Web is that the miracle is you. It's you. You are love, and you bring change. It even says in the movie, and this blew my mind, I had to stop and rewind. It even says in the movie, you have chosen a hallowed doorway to spin your web. Isn't that cool? And I thought to myself about this opportunity to be here with you all this morning. Those of you that have your photographs on the chairs so beautifully. Actually, I saw Muji sitting right here in the front. Muji, I'm so glad you came to join me today because I often listen to your talks. Filled me up. I'm honored to be here. And the last book I want to share with you, because for those of you that do know me, you probably wonder why I always say something like, oh, let's look at the good and what will happen. Well, the last book is one that I just recently published, and it's called The Benefit of the X. I know for some of you that's a tough pill to swallow. What's the benefit of your ex? And the subtitle is Making Love Visible When Everything Changes. Because we know that love brings change. In my spiritual work, I've recently discovered an amazing speaker and spiritual leader, and I'm going to close by sharing something that she wrote. Her name is Amoda Ma'a. Be willing. Be unconcerned with awakening as the remedy for your pain. Be unconcerned with enlightenment as the perfect destination. Instead, be willing to open up so wide that nothing is denied or suppressed or hidden in the shadows. Be willing to empty yourself of every single vestige of resistance, even if it means digging so deep into the encrusted mechanisms of self-preservation that rips you apart. Be willing to bear the unbearable and be broken open. My friend, be concerned only with emptiness, because only an empty vessel can be filled with God. Love brings change. And so it is.